Hello and welcome. Today we're inside my Land Cruiser. Let's start her up. Now I just drove this vehicle all the way up to Banff National Park in Canada and back. And today we're going to talk about that. But before we start doing that, let me show you guys around this vehicle. This is a 200 series Land Cruiser. You can still see some marks from the Canada trip on the chrome here. Once you notice that mud flap, we drove to a mud puddle and it snapped off, so it's currently duct tape back on there. It did cause kind of a dent over here on the car. Finished in pearl white, I believe. There's a bit of crack on the rear bumper from a parking lot accident. We're already right into my first complaint of this vehicle. Is when the vehicle is on, you have to unlock everything from the inside. It doesn't work from the outside. I'm 5'10". I have plenty of headroom, quite a lot of leg room, but the seats flooring is quite high, so I don't have a lot of feet room. Back here, there's center arm console with the TV control. This is not a wireless charging pad. Cup holders. You have heated and cooled rear seats, and of course rear climate control, which is currently turned off. Just these rear screens, which are quite useless. And just open the trunk and fold down the third row seating. There's a button up here. You can see my Land Cruiser Heritage Museum, that sticker that I got from Utah. Split tailgate. Very useful. To just ignore the back and toe strap for your back foot low. Third row seats goes on the side. I do love these. Very nice seatbelt clippers. Just fold up one. And check out the third row seating. These seats folds all the way forward, but it does hit the screen, and if you're not careful with it, with one hand placed on top, it just slams itself onto the screen. Quite easy to get in and out of. Now I do still have just a little bit of headroom. My head is wearing this hat. It is just kind of scraping the top of this Land Cruiser, but otherwise knee is quite high, but I could stay back here for a little while. For like a little trip, 30 minutes, definitely not a big deal. Fold down the seat. Of course, recently I left the trunk open so I could just climb up from the back, folding the rear third row seating back down. It is a 2-3-3 sitting configuration, so this vehicle does sit 8 people, and I have had the time where I actually did take 8 people with me in this car. Now moving on to the front seats. Good old parking brake. Love this. There's simple shifter, automatic heated and cooled seats, heated steering wheel, which is very useful in Canada. And since we're talking about climate controls, the climate control in this car is great. Within 5 minutes or so, you'll be at your desired temperature. Very old school screen. The screen is pretty pointless. And 17.2 miles per gallon. We'll talk about that later when we drive. You have your cooler down here, which I have some hand sanitizer and my water bottle. Not sponsored. Small space, coins, some cards, and charging line. Sunglass holder, which my sunglass is not in here right now. Lighting, sunroof control, and I do have some windshield washer fluid in the glove box. Quite a big glove box. The door bins, if you take my water bottle out again, it does fit here. It's a bit of a squeeze, but it does fit. Alright, with that said, let's go for a drive. I start with the driving position. You do sit quite high up, and you could see over pretty much every other car. And you do really get a king of the road driving position in this car. I don't even have the seat. Usually when I get into every car, I put the seat in lowest mode. In this car, I feel like when you put the seat to its lowest mode, it's still too high. So I decided, why not just lean into the king of the road, high driving nature of this car. So now, power comes from a 5.7 liter V8, same engine as the Tundra, rated to an 8-speed automatic transmission. This engine is smooth. It just gives you the creamy, smooth, no-down V8 torque, of which there is 400 pound-feet, or about 400 pound-feet. Rated at 385 horsepower, this vehicle is certainly not fast, given its 5,800 pound curb weight, or near 5,800 pounds, maybe exceeding. But it's certainly not slow. 0 to 60 in about 6.5 seconds. I do love this gauge cluster design, simple and beautiful. And as you may notice, the fuel gauge is currently full. I just filled it up this morning and quite expensive. It's got a big tank. I don't know the exact size, but I believe it's somewhere in the 22-24 gallon size. Nice space to hold some business cards. Sun visor, pulls over, extends, and sun visor again. Love this double sun visor situation. More cars should have that. You also have down here a nice space to hold your credit cards, whatever cards, parking cards, etc. Now let's talk driving impressions. The throttle pedal has a slight delay to it. To drive this car smoothly, you have to not be aggressive with it. You have to be light and gentle with it. If you step the throttle too fast, the car, because of the delay, doesn't respond immediately and then jerks you forward afterwards. Visibility in this car is fantastic. The pillars are not that thick. You have lots of windows, lots of glass. Now, turn signal controls I find to be a little bit light. I wouldn't mind them to have a little bit more resistant to the click. The steering is hydraulic. It is heavier than you probably would expect from a luxury vehicle. It does also, because the hydraulics and this vehicle, the platform is old, it's from 2008 platform, it has quite good steering feedback. Of course, being a luxury SUV, I don't actually really want steering feedback in this car. It's not my Civic Type R where I take on the Cayens. The ride is smooth. The solid rigid axle in the back does shake the car up a little bit, and being body on frame, you do get a little bit jolts and bounces, but on the highway it's comfortable, it's quiet, and well, that perfectly leads me into the conversation about the road trip. 3,800 miles, 56 hours of driving from California to Utah to Montana to Banff National Park, all the way down to Vancouver, down through Seattle to Portland, Oregon to Sacramento, and back down into Los Angeles. Well, on that road trip, taking this car off-road, on-road, mostly on highways, and it's just been really comfortable. Driving at 12-15 hours a day, no complaints whatsoever. You do need to end up stretching it back a little bit. Do kind of wish this car has massaging seats, but the seats are super comfortable. Just my back, it's not that good at sitting for a long time. Heated steering wheel is great for cold Canada mornings, even though it's April. I do wish it's a fully heated steering wheel. It's only these two parts that are heated. Up and bottom is not. Well, it's wood, so I wouldn't really expect them. The brake pedal is soft. It's very easy to press. It does give positive brake feedback. Now, how does an Land Cruiser go about in a town, especially kind of an old center city town place like this? The answer is, ooh, nice Type R over there. Right, and a nice 65 Mustang. Well, as you expect, such giant vehicles, such big body on frame truck is not exactly most fitted for this type of driving. With that said, I am very well insulated from the outside. I'm not hearing that much noise from the outside. The V8 does not intrude much noise into the inside of this cabin. I mean, you could hear a little bit of it here, but not intruding. The car is just smooth. I could feel some little imperfections in the road because of the old body on frame chassis, but there's no big harsh impacts. It is smooth. I'm driving this car off-road as well. I'll put some pictures on the screen now. To get to this very beautiful lake in Montana, actually near the border of Canada, requires driving through some unpaved muddy terrain, and this vehicle handled that muddy terrain completely fine. No complaints whatsoever. And that's like the type of driving this car does. Even on those sort of muddy, bouncing terrain, it's still quite comfortable to drive. And it is icy on that muddy terrain. The car kind of slides around a little bit, but it's predictable. You can easily control it. And of course, if I do happen to get stuck, I do have crawl control, multi-terrain select, which I've not ever actually needed to use in this car, but I know it works great, and it gives me the full confidence to drive this car everywhere. Now, this vehicle is still on stock Dunlop tires. In the future, I think I'll probably put a set of Yokohama Geolanders, I think that's what they're called, on this car. Alright, now let's feel some acceleration from this V8. I feel there, plenty of power. I do find, however, if say I'm driving on the freeway, I need to pass a truck, or pass someone in front of me, that is when you feel like, yeah, you might want some more power, because the wind resistance is quite big. Now, when there is no wind, you don't hear much wind noise. There's a little bit coming from this area, from the mirrors, but not much. Nothing that would drive you crazy. And the tire noise is kept to a minimum as well. But in Montana, which I think from my personal experience now, in Montana, which could also be renamed the state of crosswinds, that was quite strong. This crosswind, that's the strongest crosswind I've ever experienced for a whole 40 miles straight of driving, where I have to point the steering wheel like 45-degree angle to the right like this just to keep the vehicle straight. That's when you feel like you want some power, because to maintain a good 75 miles per hour in that crosswind situation, with everything in automatic mode, in car, what doesn't even have sport mode, the car is holding itself at 3,000 RPM just to hold 75 miles per hour. That's when I feel like it would be nice to have maybe like a twin turbo V8 of some sort, just to get a bit more power out of it. And that's where that 17.2 miles per gallon came from. On the first day of the trip from here in Los Angeles to Salt Lake City in Utah, I was able to average 18.6 miles per gallon, which is not very good still, but it's not bad for a vehicle of like this size and, well, that's shaped like a brake. But in a crossway situation, if I had to reset the trip odometer in Montana, it would probably reach 14-15 miles per gallon. Just vehicle, if there's any sort of wind, it gets abysmal fuel economy. On that 56-hour trip, well, 1 week divided into 1 week of driving, vehicle, now it reached 341 miles of range because of that trip, but in normal city driving situations, when you fill up, it reached 240 miles of range, a whole 100 miles less. That kind of just gives you an idea how in fuel efficient this vehicle is. I did notice the rate at this disappears is slower than the rate of miles that goes onto the odometer. It does make me wonder. Well, it does not make me wonder. It does prove to me that this is underestimating. You have headlight washer in this car. Everything about the Land Cruiser is a relaxing driving experience. I'm not feeling like I need to drive aggressively. When I drive the Land Cruiser, I feel like, yeah, I'm just getting to places in my comfortable big land yacht. That just also happen to be really capable. I've drifted this car on ice. It was quite fun to do that actually. There's something that it feels different. When I've driven a Range Rover before, it doesn't feel like this. This has more of a rugged feel to it, and I quite like that. It's more, it almost as if this car is more relaxing than the Range Rover, despite being less comfortable. The bounciness, the shaking left to right, it's almost therapeutic. I like it. And I know they got rid of the V8, and the new Land Cruiser is based on a 4Runner. I'll miss this actual big Land Cruiser on its bespoke chassis. I know there's a new 300 series, which we don't get here, and the new LX. I've driven the LX with a twin turbo V6, and I love that engine, to be honest. That twin turbo V6 is great. But there's something about the way this big 5.7 liter V8 delivers power. The creamy smoothness of the sun. Yeah, I can tell it's a little bit bumpy on this road right now. I'm kind of being bounced around, but you know, it's fun. It's not enough to give you a headache. And it's still definitely comfortable. And I'm not having to yell. And I don't need to be yelling or speak very loudly for my passenger to hear me, unless in the third row. The JBL speaker system is fine. It's not the best in the world, but you know what? This vehicle is perfectly adequate. It's old school. Yeah, you don't have Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. Actually, there's a retrofit system that you could put in here. I might do that in the future. But this works just fine. Holding my phone for navigation. I did find the USB port, which by the way, this vehicle lacks a lot of charging. There's only one USB port here in the front, and charges your phone really slowly. So I'd rather use this 12-volt outlet here. The wireless charging pad does charge your phone, but like most wireless charging pads, it does a better job at heating up your phone than charging it. And honestly, yeah, this is a great road trip vehicle. Assuming the destination where you're road tripping has a lot of gas stations, you need one of those. Otherwise, buy some gas cans. People in Teslas, you say drive electric vehicle, you have range anxiety. When I go to rural areas in this vehicle, I also have range anxiety. It's too inefficient, this vehicle. And what the new 3.5 V6 doesn't seem to be that much more fuel efficient. So as a time being, I think this vehicle is here to stay. Manual sunroof. Do kind of wish it's automatic for a luxury vehicle, but it's okay. I like the general old school vibe of this vehicle. Everything's very well built. Everything is solid, as you expect from a Land Cruiser. The slight rattle you might hear is from the third row. Because the way they're folded, it does rattle a little bit when you go over harsh impacts. Now getting onto the freeway. Good. Exercise. plenty of power there, right up to the speed limit. Oh yeah. See, that's why I love the Land Cruiser. Bumps, deeps, potholes on the freeway. Yeah, I don't care. That's a quite harsh impact. And this, that there is a very big, very badly paved, well, not even paved, piece of concrete right there. It's just been shaken up. In my Type R, I would be worried my tire would be blown and I would be shaken to pieces. But right there in the Land Cruiser, that just felt like going over a small speed hump or one of those speed stripes. Now, hydraulic steering means you don't have any steering assist, you only get a lane departure warning. But let's test out the radar cruise control. Old school cruise control stock here. It does only go 1 mile per hour increments. Sometimes does get tiring, but once you sight, you're good. For long distance, it's very far. I like to go with the middle for long distance. I feel like the system is not the most reactive thing in the world. Sometimes it's a bit slow sometimes. So you do kind of have to pay attention, but it is nice. It allows me to drink water while I'm driving for a bit. Well, I do feel like doing that. Now the radar cruise control only functions above 25 miles per hour, which I don't understand, because the LX570, identical car to this vehicle, has full-time radar cruise control. It's the same unit, so come on Toyota, why? Yeah. So there you go, that's the Toyota Land Cruiser. Perfectly adequate old school luxury SUV. I don't have much compared to it. Here at highway speeds, it's comfortable. You can hear some wind noise, but if you turn on music, which I can't do, it's copyright. But if you have the music playing, which you will, or have a podcast playing, which I've been listening to quite a lot of the Smoking Tire podcast over the last week, the miles just cruise by. 12 hours a day, no problem whatsoever. And if you have a Land Cruiser, I strongly suggest take it on some cross-country road trips. Take it on some cross-border road trips. Take this thing into Canada. It's great. And that concludes my Land Cruiser review. Thank you for watching.